All right, welcome back to Draws and Fades, episode 117, preview of the American Express in Palm Springs, California. I am your host, Owen Vrabel, joined by my co-host, Matthew Miller.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back.
And this podcast, as always, is sponsored by Rotoballer. Exciting episode ahead. We'll definitely recap Siwoo Kim's win at the Sony Open, cashing a nice 40-1 ticket for our guy, Matthew Miller. And we'll get into the course preview at PGA West, Stadium course. This is a 3-course venue this week, so for the most part, very easy. All the courses are pretty similar in that sense. La Quinta being the easiest, and then the PGA West Stadium course being the course that's played twice, most importantly on Sunday. So all the course-related stats, I mean, if you're looking into that kind of stuff, will be tied into most of the stadium course. That's where you'll find the most data. So we'll get into the odds list on FanDuel, 156-man field. As I mentioned, a 3-course rotation, so it's a 54-hole cut. We'll give you our best outright picks of the week, our top 10s and 20 thoughts, and then my one-and-done thoughts at the end. Let's get into it, Matt. Great week for the boys. Siwoo Kim, I think you mentioned it. Maybe my ticket on Morikawa, the collapse there, kind of just maybe gave good juju for you. I don't know. So Siwoo nails in the weekend. Glad I could jump on board with you on Sunday at plus 800, but 40-1 winner. Not too shabby, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, Siwoo, man, he's a winner. That's what we talked about it last week. I mean, he's one of the guys in the field that when he's in the mix, on the weekend, you feel pretty good about him closing it out, especially with kind of the weaker field that we had last week. And we talked about it, on the weekend. I guess after Saturday, I was like looking at the leaderboard. I mean, he felt like the guy that probably should win.
Yeah.
Buckley, actually, to his credit, I thought he was going to kind of fall apart and crumble on Sunday, which he didn't. He played pretty well. Siwoo was great, but
yeah, I mean, he never really gave anything back. I mean, he had that one bogey in the back nine, and then Siwoo made birdie to tie him with that ridiculous chip in on 17, but up until that point, like you said, we were chatting. I thought that Buckley was going to give us, I guess, at that point, a break where he was going to maybe have a couple bogeys in a row, give away something, but he really didn't. So, yeah, Siwoo kind of earned that one.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, Buckley made the 26-footer on 16, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And so Siwoo was sitting off the green. It was funny, though, because I had a feeling like, not that he was going to chip it in, but I was texting you, and I'm like, his lie is pretty good here. Like, he's all right. I thought for sure he would get up and down, but then once Buckley made the putt, I was thinking like we might need eagle on 18,
right?
Or like birdie and hope Buckley pars and we go to a playoff. I did not think Siwoo was going to chip in. That was electric. He did a giant fist pump afterwards.
Yeah.
Follows it up with the birdie on 18, then he put a little pressure on Buckley.
Yeah, and for most of that week, too, we've seen the 18th and 9th holes played relatively easily. I mean, we saw guys not birdie them, but for the most part, the birdies were out there. Siwoo hitting his bunker shot, I mean, on 18, hitting into the bunker, fairway bunker usually doesn't mean good things. And for him to get onto the green and have like a 45-foot puffer eagle was huge. Tap and birdie, easy. And then Buckley couldn't do the same. Not the same exact experience, but him being in the intermediate cut kind of right up against the rough and then going for it and short-siding himself. And, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say he blew it there because making birdie is not easy, but he really put the pressure on himself more so with that second shot where he could have given himself a nicer look to give himself a birdie chance. But both of them, too, I mean, they played great, but they also, throughout Sunday, both missed, like, pretty short putts. Like, Siwoo could have been even further under par earlier in the day. He missed a 4-footer, missed, like, a 12-footer. He missed some putts, but they both kind of got it done when they needed to, and then Siwoo chip and then make a birdie on 18 was enough to do it. So, back in the winner's circle, Matt.
Feels good.
Early 2023.
2023. Hopefully it's, early and often.
Yes, hopefully a sign of things to come because as we mentioned last week, I mean, not the sexiest of tournaments, and this week, very similar. I think it's probably up there for one of my least favorite tournaments of the year because it's really difficult to track. You can't really follow what's going on because you only get shot tracker on the stadium course. You get very limited coverage of the La Quinta Nicholas course. So you're really kind of flying blind until Sunday for the most part. And just keeping track of the leaderboard in general. I mean, if you're going to be really analytical about it, I'm sure you could maybe find some edges on live lines, just because the La Quinta course is the easiest. I think it's the easiest course in the PGA Tour rotation. It's a complete joke, but the other courses are easy as well. So, I mean, but when you're looking at the leaderboard, you're seeing names that have all played different courses up until Sunday. And a 54-hole cut is also awkward, not something we're used to. So it's just it's not the most pleasing experience as a viewer and better on an event. So that being said, I will say, I mean, it's, the second, 2 weeks in a row now we're getting a full man field, and the top of the board is pretty stacked with players in the elite group. I mean, we got Rahm, Cantlay, Scheffler, Xander, Zalatoris, Cam Young, Burns, Sungjae, Tom Kim, Finau. So a lot of the big names are here that are left on the PGA Tour, and it's not as shitty of an early season event as you would think because of that. But also, like I said, the viewing part of it just kind of takes away, I think, from it from a viewer perspective. So the odds list, it's a weird event because those big names are here. You do get some nice long shot opportunities, and we'll get into it with the course preview when we're, previewing the course. Like I said, they're all pretty much birdie fests, but the stadium course is the most important. But we've seen it's a pretty eclectic crew of winners here. Si Woo, who just won last week, also won here at the American Express in 2021. Hudson Swafford is a 2-time winner. And Jason Duffner, Adam Long, John Rahm, Andrew Landry. And this format has been in place since 2016. So that's pretty much where I think it's most important to really look. And before I let you get into the course preview, there definitely are some interesting trends that, I guess, similar to last week, you can kind of call it as you want in terms of being sucked into some of these trends. But correct me if I'm wrong, Si Woo did play at the Tournament of Champions, no?
He did not. So
he did not.
So he bucked the trend. Yeah.
He bucked the trend. All right. So now, again, takes us with a grain of salt. But, and this is courtesy of the Fantasy Grind on Twitter, Jeff. 12 of the past 13 winners have then played in one of the 2 season opening events in Hawaii in the year of one of their respective wins. Over the past 10 winners, 7 played at the Sony Open the week before, and 5 of the 7 made the cut. Adam Long and Andrew Landry missed the cut of the Sony Open in 2019-2020 before they won. And then 9 of the past 10 winners had played in this event at least once before prior to their win, the exception being Adam Long. So I think you can kind of read in between the lines there. I mean, the good players probably played at the Tournament of Champions. You got a little bit more guys that got some rust off at the Sony, and now we're at the American Express. There are some guys who still haven't played yet in 2023, coming off a long rest. So I think if you like a guy, maybe don't have to read too much into it, because Si Woo Kim just bucked the trend last week, but it does seem like at least shaking something off before coming to Palm Springs is good for the mojo. So let's get into your thoughts on the course. I know, like I said, 3 courses, so whatever you got for us, we'll listen to it.
Yeah, I'm kind of right up there with you. This is probably in my bottom, 3 events of the year. Following is really hard. There's 3 courses. The La Quinta Stadium course and the Nicholas course, everyone's going to play all 3 of them the first 3 days. It's going to be a rotation. And then everyone who makes the 54-hole cut will play the stadium course again on Sunday. That's a Pete Dye design. All 3 courses are par 72, under 7,200 yards. La Quinta is 7,060. The Nicholas course is 7,181, and the stadium course is 7,140. They're all pretty easy. La Quinta is the easiest, as you mentioned, but none of them are very difficult. I think the defense of this course, if you want to call it that, would be the bunkers are actually some of the toughest on tour, and there is some water on the stadium course there, which could come into play. I think Tony Finau hit a big back 9 shot into the water to kind of cost himself a chance to win in 2021, the year that Siwoo won.
Yeah, the water is definitely like one of the main things that it has as a defense. Other than that, you're pretty safe. But it has come to play. So
yeah,
that was back when Tony Finau was used to not winning on Sundays. So
yeah. Well, Tony's changed it around a little bit to his credit.
Yeah, he has. Yeah.
The greens are overseeded POA this week. Not Bermuda is listed because Bermuda is dormant this time of year. If you're looking into, green type, I'm personally not going to focus too much on that this week, but a little fact if you want it. Past winners, as you mentioned, Hudson Swafford last year, Siwoo Kim 2021. They both won at -23. Landry and Adam Long both won at -26 the 2 years prior, and then John Rahm won back in 2017. That was interesting enough. The top of the board, like you mentioned, is pretty strong this year. But out of those past 5 winners that I just mentioned, John Rahm was the only one to go off below 60-1. So we have kind of seen some long shots pop and win here. I think it's one of those events where could come down to who gets hot with the putter. John Rahm kind of called it a putting contest last year. He wasn't very happy about it. Had some colorful language in there.
Ironic, though, too, obviously, at a place that he's won before. So
yeah, he was not very happy.
But setup. It's not like he won like prior to 2016. Like he's won at this event on these courses.
Yeah, and he's back this year again. So another thing too that's going to be tough. I mean, it is a pro-am as well, so the rounds are going to be very long.
7-hour rounds.
Yeah, like Larry the Cable Guy plays, and just it's not fun to watch. So
is this a Larry the Cable Guy event?
I think he's because I think like the Pebble Beach one, they get the bigger celebrities. You got like Carlton Banks out there, and
Wait, so Larry the Cable Guy is not a big celebrity anymore?
I mean, I would call him like a little bit. I would call him second tier.
Yeah, that's true. I thought it was even worse than that, to be honest. So,
well, we're naming him, so I'm sure there's people that are way worse than him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll actually see if I can look up the list somewhere after this. But yeah, this week I'm going to be looking mostly for, guys who can go low. As you can see from the last 4 winners, -23 was the worst score to win. So you're gonna have to make a ton of birdies. Guys get hot putting, approach. Off the tee, longer hitters will benefit. There's not really a ton of trouble. Even if you hit it in the rough, it doesn't matter. So I don't think like hitting fairways is going to be overly important, or driving accuracy, anything like that. I think it's just going to be one of those weeks of guys who hit their irons well and make enough putts to win. If you have a feeling that someone can go low, I would take them.
Yeah. This is an interesting place. It's like all 3 courses are relatively short, looking to being extremely short. Just par 5s are super reachable. The par 4s are all extremely short. It's going to be besides it being a putting contest, is also similar to a lot of these birdie fests. Is like a wedge to 8-9 iron fest where you should be. If you don't have less than an 8 iron in your hand, I don't know what you were hitting off the tee. So, a lot of these guys are going to have relatively easy shots into these greens. And if you look at the last 2 years, at least, of players that have won, you do need to have strong approach game, which again is going to be from a shorter distance than a lot of other courses on the PGA Tour. But everyone except Patrick Cantlay gained on approach last year, which is surprising that Cantlay was the only outlier there. And then all but 3 in the top 10 gained strokes putting. And Hudson Swafford won. He gained over 6 strokes putting. Lonzo Griffin was 3rd. He gained 3.5 strokes putting. Brian Harmon played well. Denny McCarthy is a putter savant, so he was up there as well. So I think that's where John Rahm's, angerness comes from, is that you see some guys pop on these leaderboards that are not notoriously great players, but can have a good putting week, get into the mix, and that's all that really matters. So it shouldn't matter too much. The weather should be pretty consistent across all 3 courses. So I guess it could get a little bit windy. That's really another one of the only defenses these places have. But other than that, I'm looking for guys that can make birdies in bunches. I guess to a degree, I'm looking for guys who have played one of the past 2 weeks. And I think course history you can take a look at, but at the same time, I mean, I don't think Adam Long had played this event prior to winning, although that might be wrong. But he definitely, I guess, no, he bucked the trend on not playing the prior 2 weeks. But we've seen outlier winners here, so which is also interesting. I think once the live expansion happened and they took they took some of the bigger name players as well as a lot of the middle tier players, and I don't know if we're going to see these big long shot winners anymore. 200-1 was a giant long shot for Hudson Swafford last year, and it feels like that range of players is weaker than they would typically be. Although I do have someone around 200-1 that I'm going to be taking this week, so I'm hoping that maybe that's not the case. But again, seems like also a lot of the bigger names are more inclined to play some of these events. So similar to what we said last week, which kind of didn't really come to fruition, that I thought some of the bigger names on the odds list would be in the mix come Sunday, and that totally wasn't the case. I mean, Siwoo Kim was really the cream of the crop up there. I think Corey Connors was really the only player that was under 50-1 besides Siwoo Kim that ended up playing well. So, and when I say well, I mean, inside the top 15. So, yeah, this is a wild card week. Just got through wild card weekend, so I guess it's a good time for a wild card week. But let's get into the odds list on FanDuel. John Rahm is here, even though he fucking hates this place. He is plus 550 on FanDuel, which is a crazy number. Patrick Cantley and Scotty Scheffler are both 9.5 and 10-1 on FanDuel, and then Finau, Xander, Zalatoris are between 15 and 19. Tom Kim, Sung Jae, Cam Young between 20 and 21, and then Sam Burns and Siwoo Kim are both 29. So that's your top 11 on the odds board, Matt. Again, this is a weird week. I guess not as inclined as a major week or something like that where you feel like you need to take someone up at the top. But at the same time, these guys are clearly the best players here. So what are your thoughts at the top of the board?
Yeah, I think, obviously they're way better than the rest of the players. I mean, there's a pretty big drop off once you get to like the next tier in my mind. A lot of guys who are good winners, that you don't want to see on the leaderboard on Sunday if you don't have them. But I am going to go with Sam Burns, 29-1.
Taking my guy
he's not playing particularly great right now, but it's kind of similar to my mindset last week with Siwoo Kim, where, I think given the value on the board and his win equity, I think he's the one that stood out to me. I mean, 29-1, the guy's won 4 times since May of 2021. I mean, he's a winner. So I'm not going to get overly scared by the stats. And, you could look at the last 36 rounds and he hasn't been hitting his irons great, but a lot of that's dating back to, November and October. Like, we're now in mid-January. He didn't look great at the Tournament of Champions, but he shook off some rust. I'm not going to get too caught up in all the models and stuff like that. I'm seeing him 29-1 in a Birdie Fest type of event. We know he can get birdies in bunches, and he's a guy that wins. I mean, when he's in the mix on Sunday, he closes it out a lot. So, I'm going to take a shot at him this week.
All right. I like it. Obviously, I always like Sam Burns. I feel like I'm a little bit of a Sam Burns whisperer. I've been on multiple of his wins. I'm a little bit off of him currently. I feel like it's really tough to play as good of golf as he has over the past, 18 months. And I'd like to see a little bit more from him before I start putting my money on him again. But I may regret that. So it's one of those things too. I would be inclined to take more guys at the top if it were a different type of event, but I'm going to put my money on Cameron Young this week instead, which, he's up there with all of the other proven winners, and he has yet to close the door on one. But I think if there's a week that he could do it, I think this is a great week to start. He's been a little bit more inconsistent than from his, end of the season fireworks where he finished second at the Open, kind of put the pressure on Cam Smith, and then backed that up with a couple weeks later, finishing second at the Rocket Mortgage, which we thought he might win. But, he hasn't missed a cut since last July. He played also at the Century Tournament Champions, was a little inconsistent, finished 13th. I just think he's going to bomb and gouge this place. I think put a wedge in his hands, and we've seen him be able to get at least marginally hot with the putter. I mean, he gained over 3.5 strokes at the Rocket Mortgage. He's pretty consistently, I guess, average to slightly above average with the putter. I just think he's going to give himself a ton of looks this week. And every week he tees it up, I think he's one of the most motivated guys on tour right now. So Cameron Young, talent-wise, is up there with the best of them. And over his past 50 rounds, which is dating back pretty considerable period of time, I mean, he's 6th in ball striking, 2nd in off the tee, 4th in tee to green total. And birdies are better gained. He's 4th. Birdies gained, he's 4th. Opportunities gained, he's 11th. I mean, he's just going to give himself a ton of looks at a course like this. He's only played here once, finished 40th. But I like Cameron Young a lot this week. And it's tough. I thought about Burns. I also thought about Sung Jae because those odds seem decent. Will Zalatoris, I think it could be a good play, but we've talked about this. I don't love him maybe at a birdie fest, but that he may end up putting that to bed at some point where he just wins one of these. And then all the other guys are scary up here. I mean, Cantlay and Rahm both have great course history. Scheffler has good course history. Finau has good course history. Xander is the outlier. He doesn't really have a good course history, and he's coming off that injury. So I don't really know what to think of with Xander, but 19-1 wasn't really enough to get involved there, which I guess could be a little bit stupid considering I'm taking Cam Young at 21. But that's right. That's where my head's at up there. I thought all of them are understandable if you like them. Sung Jae and Tom Kim did not play well last week. I think they were super popular last week, and I think they'll continue to be popular for all the events that they play. So,
where are you at on Tom Kim? Obviously, he's a great player. Like the number that he's going off at in these events, like, do you think that's fair? Or
yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty fair. I mean, he won two events in a very short period of time. So, I think he's as hot as they are right now, besides the fact that he didn't make the cut last week. But it's interesting because you're getting now a young player at bad odds at courses he hasn't played at a ton. So, for instance, he missed the cut here in 2021. And we're just going to be seeing him at a lot of courses that he hasn't played. So, unlike other guys who would be getting the benefit of the doubt of not playing these courses and probably getting them at a little bit better odds, regardless of the hype, he's won 2 events. He's kind of like the apple of everyone's eye. Like he's just going to be at shitty odds. So I'm going to have some serious conviction to bet on Tom Kim.
Yeah, I think he's getting to a point where he's just not really bettable. No. And if you miss him at 20-1, you miss him at 20-1.
Right. Like I don't think he's not nearly as good as Cameron Young. So,
no, I don't think so either. And I mean, I don't think he's close to Sam Burns.
Or Zalatoris.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting. But people are all over him. They like him. So, I mean, that's the thing. Once you start getting that popularity, you're gonna have a hard time seeing him move down the odds list.
Right.
Guys like to bet on him. They didn't care last week that he was the outright favorite at like 11-1. People took him anyway.
Yeah. No, and then he sucked. So. That's the problem with betting on guys that's really high up there, and I think that's why we're floating into the 20s, and it seems like a little bit safer of an area. But also the last time that I got boned was 2 weeks ago, and John Rahm won at plus 650. So, but I'm not going to compare John Rahm to Tom Kim. So, and then Siwoo Kim obviously is also one here. So, any thoughts on taking him back to back?
I'm probably not going to do it. I mean.
Sounds like you're not going to do it, but
yeah, I'm not going to do it. I love Siwoo, but I mean, he's in the victory circle in Hawaii. I'm sure he had a fun night.
He's also a pretty streaky guy. So, I mean, he could come out hot again.
Yeah, that's not out of the question, but I think it's a quick turnaround for him. He gets to fly from Hawaii to California. I just don't see it coming out winning again.
Yeah, but also, and it sucked this week too because we love taking first round leader bets, and this week it's all jumbled up. I think you can. The books do offer individual course related first round leaders, but it's not the same betting on a typical week, and the odds all suck. So
Yeah, they suck because you only have like a third of the guys playing it.
right. Yeah, no, it's like betting on a first round leader in a no cut Hero World Challenge event.
Yeah.
So
I mean, to be fair, we did bet on the first round leader at the Tournament of Champions, but
yeah. But it's easier to track. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's the thing that sucks too. I mean, if you're betting the first round leader and you can't even check to see what your guys are doing, it takes the fun out of it.
This is one of those weeks too where scores could be showing up incorrectly for sure. So
yes,
keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
All right, so moving to the mid tier, Brian Harmon still getting a lot of love on the FanDuel odds board at 34-1. Aaron Wise at 42. Taylor Montgomery, Tom Hoagie also at 42. Cam Davis, JT Poston, Sahith Theegala, Andrew Putnam, Adam Hadwin, all 48 to 50-1. Then we kind of jump on to 65, 70, 80-1 with KH Lee, Ricky Fowler, Jason Day, Wyndham Clark, Joel Damon, Harris English, Chris Kirk, Taylor Pendrith. And then we're 90 and above and into the supreme long shots. But it's funny. It's what I've kind of mentioned. I may be wrong this week, but I have a hard time believing that I feel like we're out of the age of true long shots winning these events because everyone seems pretty well known and we've kind of lost a lot of the middle tier talent to live. So the PGA Tour doesn't have, I guess, as many guys who I think are capable of maybe winning on a week, but that's also a little bit disingenuous because there are guys over 100-1 who have won PGA Tour events and I guess could do it. I just think it's going to be more hard. I guess it's always hard to predict. So maybe I'm just being a little skeptical, but middle tier, Matt, take a pick. Who you got?
Yeah, I have 2 picks in this range. One of them, I'm already regretting it, but I'm going to take Aaron Wise, 42-1.
Okay.
He's not really
not typically your guy either.
No, he's not typically my guy. I just have a weird feeling about him, and I don't know why. But he had a pretty good fall. I mean, he was 6th at the CJ Cup, 15th at the Mayakoba, 22nd at the Houston Open. He had a pretty strong year last year. Again, I mean, it's tough. But I think he's. It feels weird to say someone's like due for a win because so many guys play well, but he had a really strong year last year. I think people were making the case that he could have been on the President's Cup team. That's how good of a year he had. I think he kind of has a lot of motivation going into this year. I think he probably feels a little bit that he wanted a shot at that. He's got some extra motivation coming into this year. And I think this is kind of one of the events that he feels like he could steal. I mean, I think there's a lot of the top tier guys are here, but it's not, like you said, it's not a major. It's not one of the elevated events. Like they're not going to not try, but I don't think they're kind of as focused this week as they would be at some of the bigger events. So I think this is kind of one that some of these other guys feel like they could steal and win.
We like using that narrative, but
we do.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of came into fruition last week, although Steve Kim is pretty proven PGA Tour winner at this point. And I don't know where his motivation lies. I think he just loves playing golf. But yeah, I don't hate that aspect.
This is the thing too. When you have the top tier guys, like these are guys that can and John Rahm's played well here, but these are guys that can certainly grind it out and win. And when they're focused, they're mentally probably these winners are probably more mentally strong than a lot of the other golfers. But it's tough to kind of really get checked in when you're playing a pro-am with Larry the Cable Guy and the round's taking 6.5 hours. Like it's hard to really kind of have that mentality going into it if you're one of the top guys. So I think it is kind of a week where, we've seen some longer shots win. This is for them. This is like their Super Bowl, they could get a win on tour.
Yeah, that's fair. Although I did say too, at the Tournament of Champions, a little bit different, not a pro-am, but zero pressure, and sometimes that's why the cream of the crop kind of rises to the top because they play better golf when there's no pressure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could be maybe a little frustrated with the length of the rounds and everything like that, but they're really not overanalyzing a lot of these shots. I don't think it's a very easy course, so I think they kind of free themselves mentally. But we've seen long shot winners here hit before, and I guess Aaron Wise certainly wouldn't be a long shot this week, and he is certainly one of the best up-and-coming golfers that hasn't won, so I don't hate that. And I'm going in a similar breath to Taylor Montgomery, who we talked about last week, maybe not trusting all the hype and maybe wanting to see a little bit more before going all in and taking outright bets on him. But I mean, now you get a 42 on him because there's a few more elite players here this week, and he showed up again last week. I mean, he gained 6 strokes putting and finished 12th at the Sony Open. It could have definitely been better. He lost 4.5 strokes on approach, which isn't the best sign for someone coming into an event. But the fact that he could do that and still finish 12th means he's he's a really good golfer. And over the past 7 events since we've seen him really post U.S. Open, Fortinet finished 3rd, gained 11 strokes on the putting greens, finished 9th at the Sandersons, gained over 5, 15th at the Shriners, gained over 5, 13th at the CJ Cup, gained over 4, and then last week gained over 6. And he hasn't missed a cut, and he has 6 top 20s in his last 8 events. Actually, 7 top 20s, and that's also including 4, 5, 6 top 15s. So he's been spectacular, and maybe it would be early for him to win. But as John Rahm put it, this is a putting contest. So I'll take a guy that's shown very early on that he is absolutely lights out with his putter. So I guess I'm jumping into the Taylor Montgomery hype train here a little bit early, and maybe not early. I think a lot of people have been betting on him already, but I thought that I was going to hold out for longer, and then here I am next week betting on him. So Taylor Montgomery, 42-1. I don't think you're going to get too much better of odds on that. Maybe if I've seen a couple of 50s out there. But yeah, I liked Montgomery at those odds. And then we had talked off the air about this next guy who I did bet on last week and was a little bit disappointed, but Cameron Davis certainly feels like a good play this week.
Yeah.
As disappointing as he was last week, I mean, he still finished 32nd. He's made 4 straight cuts, and he's played well at this event and finished 3rd here 2 years ago, where he putted really well. And I do have a little bit of a soft spot for the longer hitters this week because I think there's just going to be so many reachable and drivable positions where they're going to get themselves into really nice birdie looks. So I like Cam Davis this week. He's been really good. I mentioned it last week. I think he's as due for a win as some of these other up-and-coming guys. Obviously, he won at the Rocket Mortgage in 2021, but
hit my heart out that week.
Yeah, he did. So
yeah, I thought for sure Joaquin Neiman was going to win that.
So maybe this is a redemption circle. We'll get Cam Davis on the other side of a win for you. So I like Cam Davis a lot this week.
Yeah, I like him this week too. I think we actually had him here 2 years ago when he came in 3rd.
Yeah, we did.
It was like he was a long shot. He was like 80-1 or something. But yeah, he gave it a good run on Sunday. He's got a lot of game, Cam Davis. He's a good player. He's obviously won once before, but I think he's gonna have a nice year this year as well. Thing I like about him too at this event, I mean, you touched on it with a lot of the stuff, but one thing I'd like to mention too is kind of birdie fest type of stuff like this. I mean, you look at Cam Davis last 36 rounds, he's 3rd in the field in opportunities gained, 9th in birdie or better gained, and 7th in eagles gained. So this guy certainly knows how to take advantage and give himself looks on birdies and eagles, and he could certainly go low. I think that he's going to play well this week. I think we're going to see him in the mix. Like you said, I mean, it wasn't his best week last week, but he still made the cut, got 4 rounds in. He fits into your trend, that you were talking about there. So, yeah, let's see it. I think Cam Davis is definitely going to show out this week.
Yeah, all 3 of my picks so far technically fit into my trend. And also, Cam Davis, even if you expound on that to 50 rounds, which I think goes back a pretty significant period of time. Like I said, for modeling purposes, I think the earlier part of 2023 is tough because there really isn't really any recent form to speak of. But a guy that in the last 6 months has just played really good golf, like top 10 in all of the strokes gained categories for opportunities, birdies or better, eagles, and birdies gained. And we saw that last week. He gave us a little bit of a run with the first round leader where he eagled 9 and then kind of didn't keep the pedal to the metal there in the back 9. But he's going to give himself plenty of eagle looks this week, that's for sure. And I'm excited for Cam Davis this year. I said it last week, and I think I'll probably ride him until he really shits the bed for a few weeks in a row. But, I mean, honestly, if he keeps playing like he's playing and just keeps getting put at odds in the mid-50s, I guess we got him at 48 right now. I think those are good numbers on a guy that's been very consistently above average, only missed 1 cut in his since May. So, yeah, I really like Cam Davis this week. I like that pick, Matt. So I'm glad we're on the same page there. A few other guys, I think, under 90 that I'm interested in. Kind of really need to pull the trigger on a few here that I haven't quite yet. Obviously, this is a Monday afternoon, Martin Luther King Day, holiday. A lot of thoughts flowing on the board while we're doing this on a Monday. But Sahith Theegala, JT Poston, even. I know you love JT Poston. But I'm caught in between taking Ricky Fowler and Harris English, which both are not very sexy picks, I'll say, but I'm kind of all aboard. Again, this is not surprising. If you've been a listener to this show for a long period of time, you know I love Ricky Fowler, and I just feel like the redemption season is finally here. It's been a long time coming, really long time coming. I mean, it really hasn't played good golf since probably 2019, which was his last win at the Waste Management. But in 2021, finished 8th at the PGA, 11th at the Memorial, then 3rd at the CJ Cup. 2022, I was kind of just a mixed bag of nothing great, but nothing horrible. I mean, he did scatter in a bunch of missed cuts, but then end of 2022, fall swing, 6th at the Fortinet, 2nd at the Zozo, 34th at the CJ Cup. This goes against the trend of having a guy play over the past 2 weeks, but I really like Rick this week. I think we've seen some swing changes with him online. I think he's probably very confident coming in off a nice long break where he probably did build some confidence in the fall swing. So 65, I think you probably get better than 65 out there. I love Ricky Fowler. So I'm going to take him. And Harris, I thought was maybe making a little bit of a comeback. Played really well first 35 holes last week and then was horrendous. So in between those two guys, I'm going to go with Rick.
Yeah, I think I'm interested to see what Ricky does. He's got a new swing. It looking good.
Yeah, it's a little less flat. It looks nice.
It does look nice. Yeah, so we'll see. Swing changes can sometimes be great things. Sometimes it takes a little while for them to, get adjusted for it. But who knows? I think this is a decent time to take a shot at Ricky. I mean, as we see in this tournament, really anything could happen. He certainly has the talent. It's been, missing for a little bit or not, showing up in his finishes. But like you said, he had a decent fall, and who knows? I don't hate that. I don't hate it. This is a week, if any, to take a shot.
Yeah, it's funny too because Rick was when he was in his prime, and he's not old yet, honestly. But when he was in his prime, he was just a really, really good fucking putter, and he showed light signs of that last year. And at other times really didn't. But it's interesting because he does have two top – well, he has finished 10th in 2020, 21st in 2021, so essentially two top 20s. And he has yet to really putt well here, which I find interesting because I think a guy that of his talent will eventually figure it out on these greens. I don't think they're super difficult. So, I know they're not difficult. So, yeah, I think he's going to – I think he's going to give someone a run for their money this week, and I'm pumped for it.
Yeah, a few other thoughts in this range. I didn't end up taking anyone, at least not yet. Adam Hadwin is a name I think is interesting. He's a really good putter. He's not the longest of hitters, but he kind of tends to play well in weeks like this, just because he can get really hot putting. It's a shame that we have the 3-course rotation because I would love to take him for like a first-round leader. And I think that
– You say Adam Hadwin?
Adam Hadwin, yeah.
All right. Wow. Yeah, you threw me through a loop there. I thought I was having hallucinations. So, all right.
Yeah, no, Adam Hadwin, yeah. And I didn't take him though, but he's someone that kind of caught my eye. I don't really love his odds. I feel like I was expecting a better number on him. And if he was where I thought he was going to be, like at 90 to 1, I would probably take him, but 50 to 1, I don't think I could pull the trigger there. Taylor Pendrith, 85 to 1. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
That's something that I could potentially talk myself into. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think we've kind of rode this before where it was 2 years ago where President's Cup year, a lot of the international players really played well after that run. And they played, he played well at the President's Cup, looked relatively good. He's definitely a bomber type player. But I mean, last year he showed tons of signs of being able to compete in these golf tournaments. 13th at the Players, 13th Barbasol, 2nd at Rocket Mortgage, 13th at the Wyndham, 8th at the BMW, and then most recently in the fall swing, 15th at the RSM. And he's a guy that can get a hot putter. The last time we saw him, he gained over 3.5 strokes putting at the RSM. I just think this guy's game is really good. So I trust Taylor to be able to. When I say trust, I mean he's 85 to 1. I think it's like a nice, solid long shot potential for a guy that has a lot of upside. And if he's playing well, can make birdies and bunches as well. So, I'm going to take Taylor Pendrith. Nothing really pops out over his recent form, so to speak. But again, we haven't seen him since November. Goes against my trend. But, I just think the guy's got a lot of talent, and I think he's going to win a golf tournament sooner rather than later.
I agree. And to your President's Cup point, Siwoo Kim just won last week. So
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you're onto something there.
We were onto it 2 years ago. I'm telling you, they got a nice run in after that. Siwoo probably won again back then. So yeah.
2021 he did.
There you go.
Yeah. I can get on board Taylor Pendrith at 85 to 1. I think that's a nice number. He's got a ton of talent. So this might be one of those ones where if he wins, it's like we're not gonna be seeing him down at 85 to 1 anymore.
No, and he's kind of similar to I don't know. I guess I don't know really who he's similar to. Probably Cam Davis in general too, but like just the fact, even if he really shows a lot of potential and has 3 or 4 top 20s in a row and jumps on leaderboards a couple times, like his talent jumps off the page, and when you're watching him on TV, he looks like a guy that's going to be able to win a golf tournament. So I think, the potential for not seeing him at these long of odds is certainly viable, and I think you got to take your shot while he's down here.
I agree with you on that. So we're on the same page there. All right, cool. So we have 2 on the same page right now. Do you have anyone else in this range? Or are you going deeper? Or
Well, I mean, I already have 5 locked in now. And I'm, it's one of those weeks where, I'm only taking one guy under 42 to 1. So I feel like you can add a little bit more guys to the mix if you want to. I'm feeling weird about Sahith Theegala this week. I feel like he's going to play well. So I'm going to be upset if he wins, which means I'll probably take him for a first-round leader and hope he gets hot early. I'm over 100 to 1. I only have 1 pick left. It's a super long shot. Guy I've taken plenty of times. So the floor is yours. I don't know how many picks you have left, but we're down here. Long shot season.
2, I believe. One's 95, one's 100. I'm going to go with our guy Davis Riley, 95 to 1. That seems like good number for him. Real good number for him. I couldn't resist, especially at an event like this. We haven't seen him, but he is one of those guys that can certainly take advantage of this course, in my opinion. He's 9th in opportunities gained last 36 rounds. He certainly has the ability to go low. We saw him at the Sanderson get that, first round leader. He can pop for individual rounds. He's going to have to put, 4 of them together this week. But this is a guy who had a really good year last year. He had 6 top 10s. He was inside the top 5, I think, 3 times. So he definitely had, a fair share of tournaments he gave a good run at. He was 59th here last year, but he shot +6 on Sunday. So, it looks like not a good finish. If he had just shot even par on Sunday, which, +6 at this event is very hard to do. If he had just shot even par, he's at 22nd. If he had, tossed a few birdies in there, you were talking about he finished somewhere in the mid-teens, which is good course history. Sure. So I like Davis Riley. He's been hitting his irons pretty well lately. I think 95 to 1's a good number on him. It feels like a little bit of a steal. So I'm going to take a shot.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I definitely considered him and kind of went with Pendrith instead, but feeling like maybe a little bit longer card than usual this week. So maybe I'll add Davis Riley. So I like that. Yeah, we're kind of high on him, although it's funny because he's maybe what Taylor Montgomery will become if he doesn't win. Davis Riley, we saw him at really low odds at some points last year, and now he's back in 95 to 1. We've seen this with plenty of guys. I'll make some notes of it on other guys that are in this field still that are now at ridiculously long odds that showed serious sparks in the PGA Tour. So, all right, Davis Riley, who else you got?
I have to go back to Keith Mitchell after my monologue on him last week.
Some people would say you definitely don't have to, but
Well, it didn't work out last week.
Yeah, well, and that was one mistake I made last week. I was like, I have an extra spot on my card, looking for someone in that middle tier, and I chose Keith to join with you instead of taking Siwoo. So
Yeah,
escape.
well, it didn't work out last week, but I took him at 37-1 last week. I certainly am going to take him at 100-1 this week. His short course narrative, he kind of hurt that last week with the performance, but we're back at the short courses this week. He shook off the rust last week. Got an extra 2 days of rest after missing the cut, but I'm gonna go back to him this week. Why not?
For your narrative, at least, like he only played 2 rounds, so maybe he would have played really well on Saturday and Sunday.
He could have, and we could have been trending.
Right.
Yeah, he's a long hitter, so you gotta like that at this event. We'll see what he does. I can't not take him at 100-1 when I said last week I think he's definitely gonna win this year. Yeah. So I'm gonna do it.
That's very fair. So. All right. Well, I only have one pick left, but just to scroll through a few other guys that are over 101 that we've seen pop up on random leaderboards. Even Will Gordon, honestly, is with the first round leader killer last year. He's at 100-1. Grillo, fan favorite of a lot of people, just can't putt for shit. Probably not a good event for him. Same with Luke List, also at 120-1. A big favorite of mine, can't putt. Ben On, who I guess putt actually pretty well last week, also can't putt. He's 120. Johnny Vegas, Taylor Moore, Mark Hubbard, Danny Willett is in attendance. I don't think many people are thinking about him this week. And then, my guy Matthew Neesmith is at 190-1. This is a homer's pick for sure. He hasn't played, so there's no, the trend factor of rest versus rust. He's going to be rusty probably, but at the same time, oh man, he showed tons of signs of hope last year at multiple points of the year. I mean, he finished third at the Valspar in March. The loss of St. Burns, he was very much in the mix of that tournament. And then towards the end of the year in the fall swing, 9th at the Sanderson, 2nd at the Shriners, 9th at the Zozo in a 3-week period, back to back to back. We haven't seen him since the RSM where he missed the cut, but I mean, this is another guy when he's making putts, he's going to be in the mix. He's an absolute iron freak. He's gained over 6 strokes with his irons in 2 of his last 5 events. I love Matthew Neesmith's game. 191 is way too much for me to not bet it. And that's really all you can say. I mean, he's missed a cut here twice and then finished 17th. So if you're looking for a top 20 play, I don't hate taking Neesmith there too. I think you get some pretty good odds on that. But yeah, this is where maybe I'm wrong about these long shot guys having a chance here because there are some other notable names. We were taking Callum Tarrant a bunch at the end of last year. He was at 190-1. Eric Van Rooyen, your guy, he's at 210. Doug Gim was a fan favorite for a while. He's at 230. Bo Hosser's at 230. James Hahn's at 250. Fratelli's at 280. All of these guys have shown plenty of signs of life on the PGA Tour. And then even guys who have won before. Garrick Higo is at 280-1. Lucas Glover's at 280-1. Ches Reeves at 300. All these guys have won PGA Tour events before. Zach Johnson's at 420. So, I mean, who knows? This is a week to maybe throw a few absolute bomb long shots out there. I know our guy Stewie loves to send in a bunch of long shots. So it's not a bad week for it, I guess. It's tough to say that when you are looking at, 5, 6, 7 of the top 15 players in the world are here this week. So, but again, Matt's motivation speech may mean something this week. It may not. So we will find out. But just to round out what my outright card looks like, it's Cameron Young, Taylor Montgomery, Cameron Davis, Ricky Fowler, Taylor Pendrith, and Matthew Neesmith. I didn't put out top 20 plays last week, but I'm probably going to get back into the mix with that this week. I'll have some first-round leader thoughts as well. See Thigala's on the top of that list. And that's where I'm going, Matt. What do you have so far?
Yeah, so far it's looking like Sam Burns, Aaron Wise, Cam Davis, Pendrith, Riley, and Mitchell is going to be my card. To your point about the top 20s and stuff, though, we did mention last week, even though we didn't put out the plays, we did mention last week on the show that Doc Redman and Austin Smotherman were some names to keep an eye on deeper on the board. Redman played pretty well last week.
JJ Spoon, I said was a good top 20 play.
So I think that some of these guys deeper down the board might be decent plays. Your Neesmith. I could certainly see, like you said, you named Callum Tarrant, EVR. He hasn't played in a while, but he's certainly got some game as well. So, yeah, there's some guys down here that are pretty interesting.
It's early on in the week too, but I'm definitely going to put a top 20 card out there this week. So stay tuned for that on Twitter at draws_n_fades. Again, this podcast is sponsored by Rotoballer, and we'll end it with some brief one and done thoughts. I know you're not in the Mayo Cup this year. I'm in it. Relatively inconspicuous start. Russell Henley, who now I don't have to worry about picking again. So it's one of my guys I can just kind of cross off the list. But in 1,200th out of, I think, 3,500 people. So not a horrible start. Earned $41,000 last week. This week's tough. And again, this year is different because the PGA Tour changed their purse structure for these elevated events. So in theory, you would want to save some of the bigger names for some of these bigger events where I think they'll be more inclined to try to win. And this week feels like a week to – and this is the third year I think we've done this where I've given out my picks and the one and done. I've gotten into the weeds before and ended up picking players that just are not good, and it's a mistake. So, like, there's only 33, 34 events. Like, you got to just stick to guys that are in what you think going to be top 35 players on the year. So, obviously, there are going to be some events where there are not as many good players in the field, and you can maybe get a little bit tricky there. But my pick this week is probably going to be between Sung Jae and Cam Young. So Sung Jae may feel a little bit safer only because he's played well here before, and his upside is probably equally as high as Cameron Young's. And I think maybe people will be a little bit off of Sung Jae after last week, so maybe he won't be as highly owned. But that's where I'm at. I don't know if you have any one and done thoughts. You don't. It doesn't matter for you because you don't. So you can really just say whatever you want.
Yeah. No. I think Cam Davis is a good look this week. I think he's going to play well. He's got good course history, and he's coming for a big year. I think he's going to have a good week this week.
All right. I don't hate that. That's a good thought. I'm in another one and done league too. That's like you have to pick two players each week. So maybe I'll throw Cam Davis in the mix over there. So I like it, Matt. Another week in the books. 2023 is, quickly getting upon us here where we're going to be into some bigger events hopefully soon. And I think that kind of starts next week. We're at Torrey Pines next week at the Farmers Insurance, and then Pebble Beach the week after. And then it's Super Bowl week at Waste Management, which is fun this year as well because the Super Bowl is in Phoenix. So I think that's a nice little caveat there. I think it's going to be extra rowdy at the Waste Management this year.
Yeah, I agree. We're coming up on a fun time of year. And actually, it is interesting, not to waste too much time at the end of the episode, but the kid put out a Twitter question to us about what are our favorite events in the year. And they're coming up for us. I mean, it was a bunch. We had like the Genesis, the Waste Management, Farmers Insurance. So we got a bunch of cool events coming up. This is kind of a rough week, but then we're into kind of some cooler, funner events.
That's very true. That's very true, actually. Yeah, what did I even say? I have to scroll back here, but this is true. It's a good time of year for golf, and then you get through a bunch of these events, and the Masters is right around the corner. So
yeah, I just saw a thing today. Players is 50 days away, so that's cool.
50 days.
Yeah,
it's not bad. People forget I did hit Cam Smith last year at the Players, so
you did.
That's another good year. All right, guys, appreciate you guys for listening, and we will talk to you next week.